Right now, Gonzaga is entering the NCAA tournament as the 1 seed with an undefeated record led by their freshman point guard Jalen Suggs, who just might be the #1 pick in the 2021 NBA draft in a few months, but he's had a very interesting career up until this point. It was clear that Jalen Suggs was an extremely gifted athlete very on. By the time he was in 8th grade, he was already the starting point guard for his high school varsity team at Minnehaha Academy, a 2A school in Minneapolis. Not only was he on the team, but he was dominating, averaging 18 points a game. A year later as a freshman, he was up to 22 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists. He would lead his team to the title, putting up 22 points in the championship game, including 15 in the second half. In his sophomore season, it was a lot of the same. He would lead his team to a second consecutive state title. Surprise, surprise, as a junior, he would win his 3rd state title, averaging 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists. As a senior, he was poised to make a clean sweep and win his 4th title in 4 years, but sadly, the pandemic cut his senior season short. He would finish the year as a first-team All-American, Minnesota Mr. Basketball, and a McDonald's All-American. ESPN would rank him as a 2nd-ranked point guard and the 6th overall player in the class. But that was just a basketball. On top of doing all that, he also had an incredible football career and could have most likely pursued a professional career. The 6'4", 200-pound point guard played the quarterback and safety position for his high school football team. Now, football is in Jalen's blood. His cousin is none other than Terrell Suggs, an outside linebacker best known for his 15-year career on the Ravens, where he won Defensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, made 7 Pro Bowl appearances, and won 2 Super Bowls. Now, Jalen is not quite the same player as his cousin. He's a high IQ, 6'4" freak athlete. He became one of the most feared safeties and dual-threat quarterbacks in Minnesota. In his 4 years as the starting quarterback, he would have a record of 37-5, responsible for 101 touchdowns, throwing 6,500 yards. But it was that dual threat ability that made him such a tough player to go up against. He became the first player ever to win both Minnesota, Mr. Basketball, and football. Now, I need to make it clear, we're not just talking about some top recruit that also happened to play football. We see that all the time, but Suggs was the real deal. Minnesota football coach PJ Fleck said he was one of the best natural football players I've ever seen live. He was truly a man amongst boys. He could do whatever he wanted. I think of the phrase "at will." Anything he wanted was at his own will. It looked so easy. I've never seen anything like that. He would finish the year as the 5th-ranked player in the state and 23rd-ranked dual-threat quarterback in the class. But what was most impressive was his offer sheet. He had received offers from the likes of Minnesota, Nebraska, Georgia, Ohio State, and after having a conversation with Nick Saban, he thought he was going to get an offer from Alabama, but he thinks that offer never came, with the expectation that he was going to pursue basketball. There's a very strong case to be made that if Jalen wasn't touring the country all summer throughout his high school career, competing on the AAU stage, that there would have been a lot more opportunities to raise both his ranking and just his recruiting intention in general. Ryan Day, who at the time was the offensive coordinator at Ohio State and is now their current head coach, recalled recruiting Suggs saying, "We traveled to Minnesota to watch him throw one spring. In the summer of 2018, he came to Ohio State and threw for the coaches. We offered him. But in the end, we just didn't feel he was going to throw it well enough to come in and play right away. I felt like if he spent 100% of his time on football, he had the chance to develop as a quarterback. He was just raw." To be fair, this is also the team that let one, if not the best college quarterback we've ever seen in Joe Burrow, just slip through their fingers. Seeing where Suggs was on the rankings and the potential to be playing pro a year later opposed to the at least 3-year path to the NFL, it appeared to be a pretty easy decision on which sport he would focus his energy on. But this wasn't as easy as you might expect. His father said he cried for a week trying to make that decision. I think what brought the tears is we do a lot of football in the community, and for him not to be able to play football anymore and be down with the little kids and stuff like that, it really broke his heart. With so much of his attention on basketball, Suggs' ability to dominate the football field really came from his elite athleticism, not necessarily a refined throwing skill. His high school coach said, "I believed he had the tools to be an NFL wide receiver. He was a better athlete than a pure thrower. I do believe he would have been a high-end wide receiver." Ultimately, Suggs decided to commit to play basketball at the University of Gonzaga. He explored all his options all over the country and even thought about going overseas to play professionally, like we saw with LaMelo and RJ Hampton, but ended up deciding to take advantage of being the starting point guard for a high-paced Gonzaga team where he was going to be surrounded by an elite veteran core, a decision we usually don't see. He is the highest-ranked recruit to come to Gonzaga and is looking to be just the second one-and-done player they ever had, the first being Zach Collins, who went in the lottery of the 2017 draft to the Blazers. Now, going into his freshman season, his stock wasn't quite where it is today. Before his first game, most outlets still had him as a late lottery selection. Most had him as the second point guard off the board after Cade Cunningham, but he just wasn't up there with Jalen Green and Evan Mobley and Jonathan Kuminga. That would change overnight though, when in his first game, his potential was on full display. It was unclear what kind of role Suggs was going to be walking into, just because we've never really seen Gonzaga just hand out big roles to a freshman. Even Zach Collins wasn't handed that. But in the first game of the year, which wasn't just a normal regular season game, it was going up against Kansas, the 6th team in the country. Suggs would start at the point guard position. He got 24 minutes a game and put up 24 points, 8 assists, and 4 rebounds, shooting 9 for 15 from the field and 2 for 3 from 3. At this point, he flew up the board. He solidified his placement as a top 5, in most cases top 3 prospect in the draft. His great year would continue. He averaged 14 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists, shooting 51% from the field and 35% from 3. Gonzaga started the season as the number 1 ranked team in the country and finished the year as the number 1 team in the country after going 22-0 on the season. Now yes, Suggs has been a strong contributor to their success, but he can't take all the credit. This is a very good team. They've got probably the best forward duo in the country in Corey Kispert and Drew Timme. It's looking like Kispert is going to be a first-round pick, possibly a lottery selection after a senior season that saw him put up 19 points and 5 rebounds a game, shooting an insane 54% from the field, 44% from 3, on over 6 attempts a game, and almost 90% from the line. Sophomore Drew Timme has averaged 19 points and 7 rebounds, shooting 66% from the field. This team is going to be a serious problem in the NCAA tournament, and if you care, they're my pick to take the net down. Now, that's not a hot take or anything, but I just think the consistency of Kispert and having a floor general like Suggs, whose biggest games of the season individually have come against their toughest opponents, is going to be a major problem. I'm going to be going hard on my second channel, covering the tournament, so I would really appreciate it if you guys go check that channel out in a link in the description below if you want to see more content. Jalen's been able to establish himself as a top prospect with how well-rounded his game is. He's got great size, not elite length, but his aggressiveness makes up for it on the defensive end. He's a pure floor general. I wouldn't consider him necessarily a pass-first player, but he's got an incredible balance of using the separation he can create for himself as a scoring threat to create opportunities for his teammates. He's also a great baseline-to-baseline passer, which shouldn't be surprised considering he was a quarterback. NBA Draft Room describes him as a natural point guard with good size, great vision, and excellent quickness. He's got an elite competitive fire and is a true leader on the court. He plays with good balance, operates within the flow of the game, and has the ability to take over when needed. He's a lights-out three-point shooter who can score in bunches. Now, another outlet, The Ringer, is a little less bullish, saying, Suggs is good at everything, but not great at any one thing at this stage in his career. He isn't an elite shooter, playmaker, or ball handler. The hope is that he can slowly improve in each of these skills over time and grow into a bigger role. It should be easier for him to go from good to great than other players to go from bad to good. Right now, almost every single outlet has him as a top 5 pick, along with Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, Jalen Green, and Jonathan Kuminga. He's most commonly mocked in that 2 to 3 spot, but I've seen him jump as high as the number 1 pick on some outlets. Right now, the top 5 odds are held in order by the Timberwolves, Pistons, Rockets, Magic, and Wizards. I really do think Suggs needs to go to the right scenario to be successful immediately, and none of these teams are quite ideal. If the draft were to happen tomorrow and this was the order, I think the most likely landing spot would be the Rockets, following Cunningham and Mobley coming off the board, which I actually think would probably be the best of the 5 potential teams getting the chance to play alongside Christian Wood and Kevin Porter Jr. My favorite landing spots, though, would be from some teams that need to get some luck in the lottery. If the Pelicans are not willing to meet Lonzo Ball's market value, then I like how Suggs would fit into this team going forward. I also like the opportunity for him to team up with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the Oklahoma City Thunder, as I think their combo guard skill sets would fit together very nicely. I found his career just so fascinating. I truly think we see a lot of his football skill show in his play on the basketball court. The ideal skill set for a point guard is being a floor general, a title usually given to quarterbacks in football. Quarterback success is usually heavily dependent on their ability to read the defense. The opposite would apply on the other end of the ball for safeties, the two positions he played at a high level. He's also going to have the benefit of the knowledge from his cousin on how to manage and go about a professional career. I'm really excited to see what this quarterback is going to do in the NCAA tournament and in his NBA career. You guys tell me your thoughts in the comments below.